No one saw this coming. Jacob Fatu just shook the foundation of WWE by teaming up with Drew McIntyre. Yeah, you heard that right. Jacob Fatu was always the lone wolf. Bloodline ties. Complicated. Trust. Earned in war, not family dinners. Meanwhile, Drew, a beast forged in betrayal, clawing back after the sword was yanked from under him. Backstage, cameras caught what fans missed, Fatu and Drew locking eyes, nodding like two men with the same scars. They weren't just plotting a comeback, they were declaring war. On Solo Sikoa. On the entire New Age bloodline. And just when you thought it couldn't get crazier, Jacob Fatu whispered, "I don't fight with family, I fight for respect." What's their next move? Hit subscribe, because when this war explodes, you'll want front row seats. No one saw this coming. Jacob Fatu just shook the entire foundation of WWE by teaming up with Drew McIntyre. Yeah, you heard that right. It's not the kind of headline fans expect. These are two men from opposite ends of the WWE universe. Fatu, a monster bred in legacy, violence, and chaos. McIntyre, the war-hardened lone warrior whose every return feels like thunder cracking through the arena. But last night backstage, cameras caught the moment where paths crossed. And everything changed. Jacob Fatu has always walked a lonely path. Sure, the name Manoa rings through his blood, but the bloodline. That's a name, not a bond. For months, he operated on instinct, destroying Solo Sikoa's enemies, and forcing bloodline rule, all while watching Solo become everything Roman once was and everything Jacob despised. This wasn't loyalty. This was survival. A test of patience. But patience has a limit. And it snapped. Drew McIntyre knows a thing or two about betrayal. He was once the chosen one, then cast aside like yesterday's champion. When he finally rose again, he did it not through handshakes or legacy, but through pain. Through grit. He watched as opportunities were stolen and alliances poisoned. And most recently, he watched as Solo Sikoa's faction manipulated chaos, picking apart superstars one by one, including Drew himself. So when cameras picked up that moment, Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre standing across from each other backstage, there was no script. No lighting. Just raw tension. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. Their eyes did all the talking. Fatu nodded once. Drew nodded back. And in that single shared look, a storm was born. The arena never saw it happen live. WWE didn't post it on Twitter. But insiders leaked it within hours. The footage showed Jacob Fatu leaning against a steel beam in the loading dock, shirtless, blood still dried from his last match. Drew walked into frame, breathing heavy, clutching his ribs, still taped from Solo's recent attack. The silence was long, and then Fatu said it, "You done following ghosts?" Drew didn't flinch. He simply replied, "Only thing I follow is justice." Fatu smirked, almost in disbelief. "Good," he said, "because I'm done being someone else's weapon." That's when Drew took a step forward. He extended his hand. Fatu looked at it for what felt like forever. Then, without a word, he gripped it tight. The handshake wasn't about friendship. It was about war. And the first target, Solo Sikoa. The New Age bloodline has run WWE like a mafia. Solo took the throne Roman left vacant. Tama Tonga backed him with savage brutality. Hikuleo patrolled the shadows. And now, with whispers of Zilla Fatu turning on his own, Solo's camp is a time bomb waiting to explode. But what no one expected was for that explosion to be triggered by the one man Solo trusted to keep the chaos in check, Jacob Fatu. Make no mistake. This isn't a redemption arc. Fatu's not trying to play hero. He's not here to save WWE. He's here to burn down what was built on his back and never gave him credit. He's the monster they caged and fed lies. And now he's chosen to stand beside another monster they betrayed, McIntyre. What makes this alliance even more dangerous is that it's not built on friendship. It's built on shared fury. On pain. On scars. It's what happens when two men with nothing left to lose decide they're done bleeding for others. They're done being pawns. Now, they're hunters. Backstage reports say that following the handshake, both men stormed the locker room Solo was using. Security scrambled. WWE officials tried to block the hallway. But neither Fatu nor McIntyre threw a punch. They stood in front of the door. Fatu stared into the camera and spoke 3 words that chilled everyone watching: "Solo, we're coming." The message was clear. This wasn't going to be handled in the ring with contracts and entrances. This was a street fight dressed in wrestling boots. And WWE had no idea how to stop it. Later that night, Paul Heyman was seen frantically calling someone, possibly Roman Reigns. Because for all his genius, even Heyman knows that if Fatu and McIntyre are aligned, there's no corner safe. No alliance strong enough. No empire untouchable. Some say Jacob Fatu has finally woken up. That he's realized Solo used him as a pawn while trying to be tribal chief in Roman's absence. Others say Drew got into his head, convinced him to wage war not for revenge, but for justice. But the truth, it's deeper, it's darker. Fatu doesn't care about being chief. He doesn't want the crown. He wants to destroy the system that let him rot in the shadows while others feasted. And Drew, he's not chasing the title anymore. He's chasing legacy, redemption, closure. Solo Sikoa didn't respond immediately. But sources backstage say he locked himself in a room with Hikuleo and Tama Tonga. No jokes, no laughs, just plans, emergency plans. By the end of the night, WWE had a war brewing with no official match. No scheduled confrontation, just tension, the kind of tension that makes every backstage interview feel like it could turn into a brawl. The kind that forces security to stay on edge all night long. And if you think this ends with one brawl, think again. Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre aren't just attacking Solo's faction. They're dismantling it, bit by bit, piece by piece. The next week on SmackDown, McIntyre ambushed Tama Tonga mid-entrance, laying him out with 3 claymores in a row. Fatu, he showed up through the crowd, dragging Hikuleo out of catering and throwing him into a production truck before vanishing again. Solo watched it all, never flinching, but you could see it in his eyes. The empire he rebuilt is falling faster than he can repair it. And here's the wild part. Jacob Fatu still hasn't said much. Just one line to the camera. I don't fight with family. I fight for respect. That shook everyone. Because that line, it's not a threat, it's a declaration. To Roman, to Solo, to Jimmy, to every person who ever claimed the bloodline was a family first. Jacob's saying the quiet part out loud, family doesn't mean loyalty. It never did. WWE officials are scrambling. Triple H reportedly called an emergency talent meeting. Security has been increased. Rumors are swirling that this war could force a brand split battle unlike anything we've seen since the original Shield fell apart. But here's what we know for sure, this isn't a storyline anymore. This feels personal. Too real. Too raw. Jacob Fatu has always been unpredictable. But now, with Drew McIntyre beside him, he's unstoppable. So what happens next? Does Roman Reigns return to restore order? Does Seth Rollins, now a target himself thanks to Paul Heyman's shifting alliances, join this war? Or does this become the fight that forces every locker room to pick a side? What's clear is this, Fatu and McIntyre didn't just join forces. They lit a match. And WWE is the gasoline. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because when this war explodes into full view, trust me, you'll want front row seats. This isn't about titles. This is about legacy, power, respect, and the fallout. It's only just begun.